So as a part of the National Budget Debate 2022, following Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke's presentation, the opposition leader, Mr. Mark Golding, made his budget presentation too. He highlighted a few points in his presentation, and this morning he's here to talk a little bit more about them. Welcome, sir. Welcome to Smile Jamaica. I hope you're well, sir.
I'm well. Thank you, Neville. I'm well. Hi, Delia. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. It's a pleasure to have you. I'm just going to ask you for an overall comment before we get specific. You were quoted as saying the budget is pure theatre based on fantasy and missing the mark. Give me a comment on that, and then we will get to some of the specifics.
Well, as you know, in the presentation of the Minister of Finance, there was quite a lot of gimmickry. So I was making a comment on that. But more importantly, the budget is really premised on a situation which no longer exists, because there's nothing in it, in my opinion, that is sufficient to protect the population from the storm that is facing the country with the terrible cost of living explosion that is unfolding with what is happening in Ukraine and what has been happening with the pandemic's impact on global supply systems, the supply chain, and its effect on commodity prices, and the effect of sanctions imposed on Russia because of what they have done in Ukraine. So I think the unrealistic aspect of the budget is its failure to address the needs of the people at this time because of those circumstances which I've just alluded to.
It's one of the main things you present. The Jamaican dream is how you've referenced it. Is a part of the challenge of balancing the budget, Mark, the fiscal responsibility, but also the responsibility that you have to citizens to ensure that they enjoy a quality of life. Is that always the challenge of a budget?
Yeah, that is always a challenge. And it is something which the former Prime Minister, Most Honourable Portia Simpson Miller, used to speak of in terms of the need to balance the books, but also balance people's lives. Mm-hmm. And that is a great way of encapsulating the challenge. What we're saying is fiscal responsibility is critical. We've written it into our law. And Jamaica on the whole has done a good job over the last 8 or so years in ensuring that we have been acting prudently in managing our public finances. And the journey should continue, but I'm just saying the pace of the reduction of debt, given the crisis that is unfolding, I think that we need to take stock of that crisis, protect the society at this time when it's under tremendous pressure, and slow down the pace of debt reduction a bit to give ourselves more resources now to help the people through the crisis. That's essentially what I'm saying. I'm not saying to do anything irresponsible, anything that will cause any lasting damage to our economy, anything that would signal that we have changed course in terms of our commitment to fiscal prudence. Nothing like that. But I do think that up to 2% of GDP could be allocated to tide the country through this terrible storm that is coming in electricity prices, in prices of fuel and gas at the pump, the effect it will have on water because of the high electricity content in the production and distribution of water. And most importantly, food prices, especially basic food items, flour products, dumpling, crackers, bulla, corn, things that agricultural chemicals and agricultural fertilizers that are critical for the growing of our food. All of these are going to be impacted badly by what's happening in the international arena, especially the geopolitical conflict in the Ukraine and the war that is going on there. So I'm saying this is a time to bend over a bit further to help the poor people, to help the wage earners, middle classes who are struggling, pensioners, the elderly, single mothers with children who are going to school, etc., the unemployed. All of these people will need some help. And I don't think the budget goes anywhere near far enough to do that.
Yep. We have some more headlines here, Mr. Golding, so I'll mention that and you could explain. One of them you said, give motorists a chance. Or a break, you said, give motorists a break. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. What I mean by that is in the last year, the ex-refinery price of gas coming out of Petrojam and going to the gas stations has gone up by about 60%. And that is before the oil price escalated with this current conflict. where it has moved to over $100 a barrel. It's volatile, it moves around, but the trend has been up, up, and up. So I'm saying motorists are finding that to fill their tanks is costing them more and more. They're not earning anymore. So it's becoming more and more difficult. Transportation costs are high. Taximen and bus owners, they are also finding that their business is squeezed. They're asking for a fare increase, but commuters can't afford that. So we're saying, look, a lot of the cost of gas in the country is made up of taxes. And we had a proposal in my presentation that the budget assumes a world oil price of $67.50 US per barrel. And the revenue that is being projected to be collected from gas is based on that price. And we're saying to the extent that the world oil price goes up above that, cap the taxes on the $67.50 price and don't charge any additional taxes on the amount by which the world price exceeds that budgeted price.
Okay.
And that would give some relief to motorists as well.
Okay. You spoke about reform of customs policies. Tell me the thinking behind that.
Well, it has come to my attention that, increasingly persons try to economize by online shopping to get deals or better prices for goods than are available here. These are not things produced in Jamaica, but these are things that we need, our people want to buy. Currently, they only get a US $50 duty concession, and anything above that, they have to pay full import taxes on. And it has been a sore point with online shoppers. And I was saying, given how hard things have become, just give them a bigger break than the 50 US. I was suggesting increase it to $150 US so that when you do your online shopping, you wouldn't pay any import taxes on the first 150 US of value of the purchase. And I think that would be very appreciated, especially by, a lot of younger people use the online channels, the internet, and there's a big industry that has emerged of logistics where companies offer the service of bringing those goods into Jamaica and clearing them for people and so on. So it's an important part of the economy. And I think that those consumers would appreciate and need that break.
And
As it stands now,
Yes.
they go through various hoops to avoid paying any additional, but they'll split up the purchases into multiple purchases and so on. So they have separate invoices not exceeding 50, but that's very tedious. And I'm just saying, just give them a more realistic customs break there.
Yeah, don't have a lot of time, Mr. Golden. I'm going to move to modernize our constitution. What do you want to see change there?
Well, we're going into our 60th anniversary of independence, but we're still not really independent, even politically, because our head of state is not a Jamaican. Is not so, and I think it is time now that we take the necessary steps so that we have a head of state who is one of our people and who, can symbolize the self-confidence we have as a nation that we believe that our head of state can be a Jamaican. And I'm calling on the government to take those steps in a bipartisan way, much has happened in Barbados last year. We also have a situation where our final court sits in London and we need a visa to go there. If you have a case and your lawyer needs to go up there, if they don't get a visa, they can't go. And it's very, very expensive. So it means that hardly any cases go to our final court. I think it was 2 last year and 2 the year before that. Yet Jamaica has already fully paid into the trust fund that established and supports the Caribbean Court of Justice, which is a much more accessible court for a variety of reasons. So I'm saying it is time for us to move away from the London-based Privy Council and accept the Caribbean Court of Justice, which has been recognized as an excellent court delivering high-quality justice and is much more accessible to our people.
Yeah.
So that's another area that I would like to see reforming. And also the impeachment legislation that I tabled last year to amend the Constitution to allow parliamentarians who behave in a manner that is unbefitting and inconsistent with their office and the standard of behavior expected of our representatives in Parliament to be held accountable through an impeachment procedure. I would like that to go to a joint select committee so it can be reviewed and stakeholders can weigh in on it and give their opinions, and then we can pass it into law. So we no longer have a situation where somebody whose behavior is totally inappropriate and should not be sitting in Parliament has impunity and can continue to sit there for years and years. We need to have more accountability to build confidence in the political process among our people, which we know is a problem right now, and it's with the reduced level of voting in elections and so on. Yeah. So we need to take steps to make our constitution as responsive as possible to the needs of the people.
We have a half a minute, Mark Golding, and I wanted to ask you before we left about your Student Loan Bureau suggestion that we should forgive $7.5 billion in students' accrued loans and remove the requirement for a guarantor. Some of the feedback I've been seeing is don't collect the loans. Is that responsible? And if they don't have a guarantor?
No, I'm not. I wasn't suggesting that we don't collect the loans.
Okay.
The Student Loan Bureau has made a provision in its accounts every year for bad debt, totaling it's sufficient for them to forgive some interest and penalties that they have charged on students that have found it difficult during the pandemic to service their student loans. And what we're saying is it won't cost the Student Loan Bureau anymore to forgive some of that interest and those penalties because they've already made a provision in their accounts for it. So give those students a chance, give them a fresh start is what I call it, so that their credit rating isn't spoiled and that they can feel more confident and take some of the mental and financial stress off of them. That is what I've said. And on the issue of guarantors, the truth is that very little is in practice collected from guarantors. When the Public Accounts Committee looked at the Student Loan Bureau, that was quite clear. But having to find an eligible guarantor is problematic, especially for lower income families and students, and it makes them fear and reluctant to even apply for a student loan. And I'm saying we should not put any kind of impediment like that in preventing our students, especially from low income families, accessing finance for their tertiary education. We must make it as simple and straightforward as possible, because that is the one route towards a better life, social mobility, and a more cohesive society. So let us remove this guarantor requirement.
We're out of time, sir. Thank you so much for speaking with us this morning. I see your team, Arnett Gardens, doing well, sir. Congrats on that.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very pleased, and big up Arnett.
Look after
have a big match coming up on Saturday, I think. Against Tivoli. So we're looking forward to it.
Look after yourself, sir. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Leader of the Opposition, Mark Golding.
Thank you.
We'll be back after this break to talk about the Psychiatric Nursing Aid Association of Jamaica. Stay with us.